Hello, good morning,
Yes,
students.
ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Is the PPT visible properly?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. So, shall we start now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, okay. So, in the previous lecture, we have completed with the transmission medium, that is physical layer. Uh, Actually, in that there is a small topic uh, required, like you have DSL and all different broadband standards that I will take. That also I will take. Before that, there is a concept of addressing. Okay, we have already seen there are different type of addressing, like you have MAC address, you have IP address, okay, or you specify port addresses. Can anybody tell me what does IP address mean? What is port address? Is this the concept known? Any student?
Ma'am, IP is Internet Protocol, and there are two types of IP address: IPv4 and IPv6. IPv4 is only numerical, and IPv6 is alphanumerical, which values
Just
goes to
just 1 minute.
F.
Just 1 minute, student. 1 minute. Okay, sorry. Now Shweta ma'am will not be continuing. Like I only will be continuing. ये पूरा lecture मेरा ही होगा अभी, and she'll be taking my lecture tomorrow. Okay, sorry for the interference. I was just talking to her only. Yeah, just कौन बोल रहा था? Just ही बोल रहा था ना? You can continue.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, continue.
Ma'am, हो गया था almost.
Yes, you were telling something, no? I have answer बोल रहे थे ना कुछ question.
हाँ मैम, आईपी इंटरनेट प्रोटोकॉल है. दो टाइप के आईपी रहते हैं, IPv4 एंड IPv6. IPv4 सिर्फ न्यूमेरिकल वैल्यू रहता है, जैसे कि 192.168.10.2, और IPv6 अल्फा न्यूमेरिक रहता है, जिसमें वैल्यू F तक जाता है, हेक्सा डेसिमल के उसमें जैसे.
Okay, okay. I'll just continue with my slides. So addressing in computer networks. Okay, so there are different kind of addressing. You have physical addressing, logical addressing. Physical addressing is the MAC addressing. Logical addressing is the IP addressing, and you have port addressing. So what is IP address? IP Internet Protocol. Okay, IP is Internet Protocol. So Internet Protocol address. Now basically this lies at the network layer. Now at network layer we know that when we are connecting devices at network layer, you have to find out the various paths, that is from source to destination. You will be finding the path, how to go from source to destination, how the packets will be transmitted. Okay, and now we know that there will be number of interconnecting devices. So at network layer we talk about routers. Okay, so you have routers which are connecting source to destination, that is sender will be connected through routers. Now, there won't be only one single router, there will be multiple routers like that.
वॉइस गया क्या उनका?
Hello, ma'am.
Here, the function of router is to select the best route from source to destination across the networks or internetworks.
मैम
Hello.
हेलो मैम, आपका स्क्रीन विजिबल नहीं और आपका वॉइस कट हो गया था.
Okay, actually मेरा नेटवर्क गया था बीच में. It again came up, so I thought it is connected. Okay,
यस
sorry.
मैम,
I'll
स्क्रीन
just.
विजिबल नहीं है.
हाँ हाँ, वो नेटवर्क बीच में गया था, वापस आया तो मुझे लगा सब आया गया होगा. ओके, थैंक
ओके.
यू. ओके, अभी विजिबल है. ये विजिबल था.
यस मैम.
ये
Yes,
ओके. एड्रेसिंग, आई जस्ट रिपीट. Three types of addressing. You have IP address, MAC address, and port address. MAC address is the physical address. IP address is the logical address. And port addresses are used generally at transport layer. We will see that also. Okay. So IP address, IP is Internet Protocol address, which is the basically it is IP address is at network layer, and a network layer we know that we use routers. Routers are used for finding the best route from source to destination, okay, across the entire network. And you have multi-hop networks, that is there will be number of routers or number of interconnecting devices between the actual transmitter and receiver, that is from source to destination. Now in this network layer you have a network layer address. That is when you say source address and destination address, it is something like that network layer will identify its own data by the network layer address. Okay, so this network layer, which is a logical address, which is assigned by the software, or that is it is assigned in software by network administrator. So whenever you have, all of you know that whenever, say for example in college, you are connected in LAN. Okay, there will be one college server, and there will be number of labs, and each lab will have its own network and the lab administrator from the server. Okay, there will be one lab administrator who will be administrating the entire network in the college. Okay, so he will be providing with some particular IP address. Okay, there are different kind of IP addresses. We will see later on. There is classless addressing, there is classful addressing. So basically, some kind of IP address will be provided by that network administrator to this to the PC. Okay, and it can be fixed or dynamic. That means it may change. Okay, it's not unique ID which is going to identify your PC. Okay, sometimes it happens whenever you want to connect to the printer. Okay, for connecting that printer you require your IP address. You want to communicate, आपको IP address की ज़रूरत पड़ती है कि मुझे कौन से ये अपने from my PC if I want to connect to the printer, तो प्रिंटर जो पीसी से डायरेक्टली कनेक्टेड है वो पीसी का आईपी एड्रेस मुझे चाहिए रहता है, and I'll be connecting my PC to that PC which is having this that IP address. Then it will give me the access to the printer. Okay, so there is a network layer. Now this network layer consists of two parts. Like network address consists of two parts. One is a network portion and a host portion. So something like जैसे आपका बिल्डिंग है तो बिल्डिंग के लिए आपकी बिल्डिंग के लिए कोई एक एड्रेस रहेगा, लेन नंबर रहेगा, and all the buildings in that lane will have the same lane number, and an individual building number will be having some numbers. In one building also you will be having your flat numbers. Okay, so something like there is a network portion and a host portion. Okay, so there is a this IP address will be provided to a host PC or a router port. It's a part of hierarchical numbering scheme, which is unique for reliable routing. Now there are types of IP addresses. It can be static or dynamic. So static means it is fixed for that particular network, and dynamic means it can be changed anytime by the network administrator. Static addressing is it is manually input by network administrator, manageable for small networks, and it requires careful checks to avoid duplication. So that is their static addressing generally provided manually. And dynamic addresses are assigned by the server. Whenever host boots, the dynamic address will be provided. But the disadvantage over here is, say for example, like printer. If you are having a dynamic addressing, you have to change that connection daily. So it is derived automatically from a range of addresses and duration of lease negotiated and address released back to server. Now there are different classes of IP addresses. You have again you have classless addressing and you have classful addressing. In classful addressing, you have class A, B, C. Uh, class E is also there. Okay, we will be concentrating on this. There are class A's. There are large organizations or governments which are going to use this class A. Later on, when we will study network addresses, network layer, you will be exploring this IP address in more detail. But right now, in your first module, since there was a topic with which requires the concept of IP addresses, MAC addresses, and port addresses to be given. Okay, so I'm covering this particular topic in short. So there is class B, which is a medium-sized organization. Something like your IP address is a 32-bit address. When you are using class A, only first 8 bits will be used. Sorry, 32 out of 32, 24 bits will be used for organization, and last 8 bits will be used for identifying PCs in that particular organization. Class B is medium sized organization, that is 16 bit for network and 16 bits for actual net nodes in the that particular organization, and class C is for small organizations. So this is a 32-bit address. Okay. So first octet is a network address. It octets 2 to 4, that is host address. Then you have first bits of first octet set to 0. This is class A. Okay. So for class A, okay, sorry, I made a mistake. Not 2 raised to 24. It is what I was saying first. That was right. First 8 bits only are used for organization, and remaining 24 bits for the host pieces. That is within one organization there will be they will host addresses will be given. Class B, 2 octets. This is 16 and 16. So first 2 octets used for uh, organization and next 2 for a host. In class C, you have first 3 address, that is 24 bits are used for a network address, and then the last 8 bits only are used for host addresses. This is something like this is one organization, and in one organization, this 193.122, sorry, 224.224 will be common, and then 0 to let's last 255 will be within that one particular number. Okay, something like that. Okay, now the next is MAC address. MAC address is a hardware address that will uniquely identify each node in the network. It is like it works at data link layer of OSI, and data link layer. Later on you will see the IEEE standard which is used for data link layer is IEEE 802.802, and then 802.2 is for LLC, that is logical link control. And this data link layer is divided into 2 layers. You have LLC and MAC, which is media access, that is MAC layer. This MAC layer is directly interfaces directly with the network medium. Mm, no. LLC interacts with the network layer, and MAC layer interacts with the network layer, like communicating with the network layer. So each different type of network medium requires different MAC layer. Okay, your MAC layer is interfacing directly with the network medium. Medium means it is a physical layer, not the network layer. It is a physical medium, and consequently, each different type of network medium requires different MAC layer. Now there is a software. There are a number of tables which map uh, it will be provided in the it will be provided in the
Ma'am,
yes, am I audible?
no, ma'am, you were not audible from the Mac.
एक्चुअली ना बहुत नेटवर्क का इशू हो रहा है कॉलेज में वो नेटवर्क बार बार जा रहा है ओके आई एम वेरी सॉरी कहाँ तक थी मैं यू कुड हियर मैक एड्रेस चालू करूँ वापस
Ma'am, slide 13 से.
स्लाइड 13 वन मिनट ओके सो यहाँ तक आईपी एड्रेस तक क्लास सी आईपी एड्रेस तक यू हैव हर्ड ना
Yes, ma'am.
या so I will start with this okay MAC address this slide I'll take later on MAC address okay, so in MAC address now am I audible properly yes okay so MAC address is a physical address okay this is going to identify this is a hardware address okay you have a network interface card this network interface card will give you that MAC address okay so there is a hardware this is a hardware address and MAC address is like it is there is a this data link layer this data link layer is divided into two sub layers you have LLC that is logical link control layer and you have MAC which is medium access control sub layer okay now LLC is the upper layer which is going to communicate directly with the as you can see LLC is the upper layer which is going to communicate with the network layer and MAC layer is the bottom layer which is going to communicate with the physical layer so this MAC layer will directly interface with the network medium whichever is used at the physical layer so whatever different type of network is there you require different MAC layers now the IEEE there are IEEE standards which are defined so data link layer will have a IEEE 802 which is the standard which is defined so LLC is 802.2 okay so something like that so basically MAC address is a hardware address or a physical address no you cannot like directly see it on the equipment but you have a software which is going to map the logical address to the MAC address that is whatever is the IP address provided by the network administrator for your PC Okay, am I audible? I had lost the
Yes, ma'am.
connection. No, am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah, सॉरी बहुत नेटवर्क का इशू आ रहा है. ओके. ओके, सो ये 15 स्लाइड तक समझ में आया ना? Okay. So MAC address is the physical address, and whatever IP address you are having, that logical address, which is provided by the network administrator, there is a table, there is a mapping which is going to map this MAC address to the IP address. So even if your IP address changes, your MAC address is not going to change. So that mapping is going to reflect that table is going to maintain, or it is going to take care of the mapping of the MAC address with the IP address. So even if your IP address is changed, how your PC will be uh, like addressed, or how it will be having the connection with other PCs in the network, that will be taken care. So we will see how to check the MAC address and how to check the IP address when we will uh, do the practicals. Here there is one command which is given. Okay, so now here you can see this is one LAN. Okay, now we know that your router is connecting different LANs. Okay, this is like a layer 3 switch. You have one LAN over here, you have another LAN over here, and you have another LAN over here. So these are the two routers. Okay. So now say basically this is the data link layer, this is the network layer, these are the upper layers, this is the sender. Okay. Now for LAN 1, you can see this is a data link layer. This is the address or some address which is provided by the say for example a data link layer. This is the information which is attached at data link layer, and this is the network layer. So when you are passing through network layer, see this is the physical address. Okay, now actually, okay, at network layer you have the physical address, and at network layer you have the logical address, and at data link layer you have the physical address. Okay, right now you remember this only. We won't go into the details because how this physical address is changed through this layer, that is the destination address that we will be seeing later on. Right now I won't go into the details. You just remember physical address is at data link layer, and network address or the IP address is at network layer. Okay, port address. See, for example, it is like a application oriented. You must be knowing when you are using TCP, you specify some port. If you use UDP, you specify some port. You have to connect to one particular process. Okay, you have to specify the port address for that. Now, on your PC, you have multiple applications running at the same time. Okay, and these applications attach themselves to different processes, and these processes will have that there is a different port numbers which are specified. Okay? So the port number for application is decided by the kernel of the operating system, and this port number is called as the port address. Okay? Each application will be running with a port number, which is logical. It is a logical address on the computer. Say for example, you have different applications like say for example at a time you are doing multitasking. आप कुछ गाना सुन रहे होते हैं पीसी पे, यू आर डाउनलोडिंग सम फाइल्स, से फॉर एग्जांपल आप कुछ बुक डाउनलोड कर रहे हो या आप जब भी स्टडी कर रहे हो यू आर डाउनलोडिंग सम मटेरियल फ्रॉम नेट, and at the same time you are feeling some or you are making some notes. तो आप कुछ वर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट एक्सेल डॉक्यूमेंट में आपके नोट्स बना रहे हो, उसके जो रेफरेंस चाहिए वो मटेरियल आप डाउनलोड भी कर रहे हो एंड बैकग्राउंड में आप कुछ और एप्लीकेशंस भी चला रहे हो. ओके, समथिंग लाइक दैट. सो देयर आर मल्टीपल एप्लीकेशंस रनिंग एट द सेम टाइम ऑन योर पीसी. ठीक है, जब भी आप नेटवर्क से डेटा डाउनलोड कर रहे हो दैट टाइम इट नोज आपका जो सपोज आपने बैकग्राउंड में गाने लगाए हैं यू फ्रॉम द नेट इटसेल्फ, देन वो गाने के जो जो डेटा आ रहा है वो उसको वो जो गाने का जो एप्लीकेशन है उस पे उसको ट्रांसफर करना है. जो फाइल आप डाउनलोड कर रहे हो, ओके, दैट इज द नोट्स रिलेटेड मटेरियल विच यू आर डाउनलोडिंग फ्रॉम द नेट. दे इट हैज टू बी सपोज वो पीडीएफ फाइल है या वो कोई वर्ड फाइल है, तो उसको वो पीडीएफ एप्लीकेशन बना के ही उसको डाउनलोड करना है, उसको वर्ड फाइल बना के ही उसको एप्लीकेशन डाउनलोड करना है. एट द सेम टाइम यू आर वर्किंग ऑन अ गूगल गूगल शीट्स, लाइक आप कुछ वर्ड फाइल ओपन कर रहे हो या आपने कुछ एक्सेल शीट जैसा ओपन किया है. सो इन दैट केस यू विल बी यूजिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर एप्लीकेशन. तो आप एट अ टाइम 3 एप्लीकेशंस यूज कर रहे हो और तीनों रिलेटेड डेटा जो है वो रिस्पेक्टिव एप्लीकेशंस में ही जा रहा है. भले आपका यू आर नॉट यूजिंग 3 डिफरेंट नेटवर्क लाइंस, यू आर यूजिंग द सेम नेटवर्क लाइन, लेकिन आपके पीसी में जब भी वो आएगा डेटा दैट इज गिवन टू डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशंस. ओके, तो ये एप्लीकेशंस जो रहते हैं वो हर एक एप्लीकेशन, दिस इज एट अ ट्रांसपोर्ट लेयर. ओके, एट ट्रांसपोर्ट लेयर यू आर हैविंग डिफरेंट डिफरेंट प्रोसेसेस. और आपका जो नेटवर्क है वो जैसे लाइक जैसे एक प्रोसेस आया वो देर इज विल बी प्रोसेस सर्वर्स, तो वो प्रोसेस सर्वर को उसने वो टास्क लगा दिया एंड अगेन योर सर्वर इज फ्री. आपका जो 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 द प्रोसेस विच इज हैंडलिंग ऑल दीज थिंग्स विल बी फ्री. तो उसने वो प्रोसेस एप्लीकेशन जो लेयर है जो जैसे आपका गाने का जो डाउनलोडिंग हो रहा है वहां पे लगा दिया, तो दैट पर्टिकुलर सर्वर प्रोसेस सर्वर इज विल बी हैंडलिंग द एंटायर running or entire downloading and playing of that song. Whatever is that pdf और डाउनलोडिंग जो है वो आपका जो जो एप्लीकेशन वो प्रोसेस जो है वो मॉनिटर जो कर रहा है दैट विल बी हैंडलिंग दैट. so there are different different you can say application port numbers, different different port numbers for different different applications, and this is decided by the operating system. आपका जो operating system जो use हो रहा है उसका there is shell, there is kernel, there are different layers. So kernel will be deciding the port number for your application, and accordingly each process will be handled by different different port numbers. तो जो port number जो है उसको port address बोलते हैं. These port addresses are existing at a transport layer. Okay, so a port number is part of the addressing information used to identify the senders and receivers messages. So port numbers are most commonly used with TCP/IP connections. जैसे आप अगर TCP/IP यूज कर रहे हो तो TCP के लिए आपको पोर्ट, से फॉर एग्जांपल समटाइम्स 8080 पोर्ट है वो 8080 पे आप अटैच करते हो. अगर आप FTP यूज कर रहे हो तो आप FTP के लिए अलग पोर्ट यूज करोगे. आप UDP यूज कर रहे हो तो आप UDP के लिए अलग पोर्ट यूज करोगे. तो देयर आर HTTP आप यूज कर रहे हो तो अलग पोर्ट यूज करोगे. तो देयर आर डिफरेंट डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशंस which will have different different port numbers. Okay, so these port numbers allow different applications on the same computer to share network resources simultaneously. जैसे मैंने बोला you will be using the same one connection line only, लेकिन वो connection line पे आप multiple applications आप एट अ टाइम यूज कर रहे हो. आपका पीसी मल्टीपल एप्लीकेशंस मल्टीटास्किंग कर रहा है, तो हर एक एप्लीकेशन को एक पोर्ट नंबर दिया जाएगा एंड वो एप्लीकेशन का जो डेटा रिलेटेड है वो कम्युनिकेशन जो है वो पोर्ट नंबर से चालू रहेगा. तो आपका आईपी एड्रेस एक ही है, आपका मैक एड्रेस एक ही है, लेकिन आपके पोर्ट एड्रेसेस डिफरेंट डिफरेंट है. तो जो डेटा आएगा IP address पे वो further it will be divided into different processes depending upon what application is using that data. So port numbers are associated with network addresses. In TCP/IP, both TCP and UDP utilize their own set of ports that work together with IP addresses. In both TCP and UDP, port numbers start from 0 and go up to 65535. Numbers in the lower ranges are dedicated to common internet protocols like 21 for FTP and 80 for HTTP. जैसे मैंने अभी बताया आपको, तो अगर आप HTTP and TCP लेते हो तो maybe it is 8080. So like that, if FTP is used, then you have different port number. If HTTP is used, you have different port number. Okay, तो TCP and UDP जो है वो same IP address से use करेंगे and they will utilize their own port addresses. So network administrators may need to set up port forwarding to allow the port numbers of specific applications to pass through a firewall. जब भी आप सिक्योरिटी के लिए फायरवॉल यूज करते हैं, जैसे कॉलेज के लैन में होता है, देर आर नंबर ऑफ साइट्स विच आर नॉट लाइक विच नंबर ऑफ पेजेस कभी कभी आप यूज करते हो तो ओपन नहीं होते हैं, तो फायरवॉल्स में सेटिंग होता है. ओके, तो ये जो पोर्ट एड्रेस है उनका फिल्टरिंग करना पड़ता है, IP addresses का filtering करना पड़ता है. You cannot cite the entire block, but maybe some parts are blocked, something like that. So the network administrator may need to set up port forwarding to allow the port numbers of specific applications to pass through a firewall. Okay, and in home networks, broadband routers support port forwarding on their configuration schemes. Okay, so the network programmers sometimes need to specify port numbers in their code, such as in socket programming. So there is a concept of socket programming also. अगर आपने किसी ने like you must have done Java where you do socket programming. Okay, जो ये processes attached होते हैं different sockets में. So something like that. जैसे आपका इलेक्ट्रिकल सिग्नल है, फॉर एग्जांपल सॉकेट्स है, तो इलेक्ट्रिकल सिग्नल जो मेन लाइन है वो एक ही आपका एक ये रहेगा, बटन्स का पैनल रहेगा, तो वहां तक एक लाइन आ रहा है आपका, वहां से आप उसको डिफरेंट बटन्स दे रहे हो, डिफरेंट एप्लीकेशंस के लिए डिफरेंट अलग अलग इसको प्रोवाइड कर रहे हो आप. यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग डिफरेंट सॉकेट्स. ओके, तो देयर इज अ कंसेप्ट ऑफ सॉकेट प्रोग्रामिंग विच इफ यू हैव लर्नड, लाइक आप मेरे ख्याल से आपने जावा किया रहेगा, तो जावा में सॉकेट प्रोग्रामिंग होता है. तो इट इज लाइक डिफरेंट प्रोसेसेस विल हैव अटैच्ड टू डिफरेंट सॉकेट्स. So sometimes a website URL will require a specific TCP port be included. For example, HTTP localhost 8080. It will use TCP port 8080. Again, this is more usually seen in software development environments than on the internet. So something like you have your own MAC addresses which will be used at data link layer. You have your you can say IP addresses which will be used at network layer, and you have your you can say port addresses which are used at transport layer. So you have, say for example, you have different applications. ये transmitter है, sender है, ये receiver है. तो every transmitter and receiver will have its own data for that particular port. Okay, so there is this is the concept of port address, concept of socket addressing, concept of IP address and MAC address. Have you understood? Is there any doubt in this? No. Okay. Okay, now so this particular topic completes our module 1. We have already started with module 2. This small part was remaining, port addresses and IP address वाला जो part था, concept of this just in brief देना था. तो ये part module 1 से remaining था जो आज complete हो गया है, and we have already started with module 2 which is a physical layer and transmission mediums. अभी transmission medium में से भी एक small part remaining है which is DSL. अगर मैं अभी DSL चालू करती हूँ तो मेरे ख्याल से वो बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएगा मेरे लिए भी और आपके लिए भी. तो I will stop over here. I'll take the attendance.
Ma'am, can you upload these PPTs?
Yeah, I will upload. But एक अपलोड किया है क्या? मैंने कुछ अपलोड किया है कि कुछ भी नहीं किया है?
मैम कुछ तो किया था आपने.
हाँ हाँ, कुछ किया है क्या? मुझे याद ही नहीं आ रहा है कुछ.
यस मैम, कुछ तो किया था आपने. बुक का गेस किया था.
बुक का 1 मिनट, I'll just check. नहीं, मैंने जो लास्ट मॉड्यूल 1 का जो फर्स्ट पीपीटी दिया था किया था वही मैंने अपलोड किया था. अभी रिमेनिंग जो पीपीटीज है वो मैं अपलोड कर दूंगी. एंड आई एम हैविंग सॉफ्ट कॉपीज ऑफ लाइक आई हैव डाउनलोडेड सॉफ्ट कॉपीज ऑफ 2 बुक्स which are your text books. I will upload syllabus also and I will upload 2 textbooks also. Okay.
Okay मैम.
Yeah. Now let me check with the attendance. Okay, now first I will see the number of students. Roll number 15. Yes, roll number 15. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, roll number 15.
Yes, ma'am.
आप कहाँ रहते हो? Means रहते हो मतलब where are you at the time of lecture? I'm not asking your residential address. Because अभी तक जितने भी lectures में मैंने देखा है आपका attendance तो रहता है, but whenever I'm having roll call, मैं बताती हूँ आपका कितना attendance है. रोल नंबर 15 का वैसे तो आपने अभी तक 2 ही लेक्चर्स अटेंड किए, लेकिन कल के लेक्चर में आपका अटेंडेंस तो था, मीन्स यू वर ऑनलाइन, बट यू हैव नॉट गिवन मी द प्रेजेंटी. मैंने जब रोल कॉल किया तभी आपने प्रेजेंटी नहीं दिया था.
No, ma'am.
मॉर्निंग के
At that time, it was my network issue,
हाँ, तो मैंने अभी बताया
so
है
I
जिनको
can't
जिनको
hear
नेटवर्क,
you.
हाँ नेटवर्क इशू जिनको है, दे हैव टू मैसेज मी पर्सनल. जो व्हाट्सएप पे नंबर है, ग्रुप पे मत डालो, मेरे नंबर पे मैसेज कर दो, जैसे आज मॉर्निंग में 57 का मैसेज आया था. देर
Okay,
आर
ma'am.
सम स्टूडेंट्स आई हैव आइडेंटिफाइड. ओके, तो आपका कल का अटेंडेंस देना है नहीं देना है? आप प्रेजेंट थे?
Yes, ma'am.
ओके. 23.
Yes, ma'am.
You were also there only for half an hour and this is observed for number of times. आधा घंटा आके या 20 मिनट आके आप छोड़ दोगे तो आपका लेक्चर का अटेंडेंस मैं नहीं दूंगी. 24.
First
yesterday
lecture,
also
ma'am.
I had. कल भी आपका भी वही प्रॉब्लम था, आपका भी अटेंडेंस नहीं आया, बट यू आर देयर प्रेजेंट इन द मीट.
मैम
24.
24
24 का भी
नहीं
सेम
मैम,
है.
मैंने प्रेजेंट बोला था आपको.
प्रेजेंट बोला था, ठीक है, मुझे समझ में नहीं
हाँ
आया. ओके. नेक्स्ट इज 30. कौन है? रोल नंबर 30. आज है क्या? नहीं है. 59 आज है. 59 अग्नि यादव.
Yes, ma'am.
यस, यू वर देयर यस्टरडे आल्सो.
Yes, ma'am.
अगर आपको कुछ किसी को भी नेटवर्क का कुछ इश्यू है ना, तो आप लोग मुझे बताओगे, ठीक है? अदरवाइज आपको मैं अटेंडेंस नहीं दूंगी.
Sure, ma'am.
67 है अभी. 67.
हेलो. यस मैम.
68 नहीं, 67.
यस मैम, मेरा 68 है.
मैं 67 की बात कर रही हूँ.
67 नहीं है मैम.
यादव साहिल मुझे मीट में दिख रहा है.
है पता
Yesterday
नहीं.
also the same thing happened. Yes, 67.
है मैम, है 67 है मीट में.
हाँ, मीट में है तो अटेंडेंस बोलो ना. मैं पूछ रही हूँ आपका अटेंडेंस. स्पीक आउट इफ यू आर देयर. सो गए हो तो अटेंडेंस नहीं दोगे, या मोबाइल ऑन करके कहीं चले गए. Yes, 67. नहीं है ना? ओके, ठीक है। आई विल सी द ओके।